Hello, my name is Scott Davis and welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast from March 27th to April 2nd of 2016. And on March 27th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted here by the black circle with a dot in it. It's in Aries. It's also in the 17th hexagram, and on outside of the wheel we have the chop mark for the 17, numbered from bottom to top. The 17 goes yang, yin, yin, yang, yang, yin. And then the 17th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 17th gate of opinions, following the ancient law that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. It's located in the Ajna Center in a collective logic energy path in the understanding circuit called the Channel of Acceptance, a design of an organizational being that connects to its harmonic, the 62nd gate of detail, preponderance of the small. Caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on March 27th. The sun is in the 17th gate with the earth in the 18th gate. The north node is in the 47th gate with the south node in the 22nd gate. Mercury is in the 21st gate. Venus is in the 22nd gate along with the south node. Mars is in the 9th gate. Jupiter is retrograde and it's in the 64th gate. Saturn is also retrograde and it's in the 5th gate. We have Uranus in the 51st gate. Neptune's in the 37th gate. And Pluto is in the 54th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And as we begin the week, we've got one channel definition due to the transit field. With Jupiter in the 64 and the north node in the 47, this is the channel of abstraction, the design of mental activity mixed with clarity. It will be with us until June 7th. The energy of this channel is about creating something new out of something old. This is abstract thoughts being brought into collective consciousness through arts, philosophy, history, and culture. It's really wonderful energy for telling stories about our experiences that inspire others, but bring confusion when used to resolve our own issues. The defined head center can influence those without to maybe think about things that don't matter. The defined Ajna center may influence those without to be certain of something even when they are not. On the 27th, the day begins with the sun in the 4th line of the 17th hexagram, where the sun in the 17.4 is described as a personal manager, exalted the ability to probe and discover the underlying motivation and resources of those who wish to follow, the possibility of opinions based on misunderstanding of others, detrimented the over-generous and often misguided acceptance of would-be followers, often with disastrous results, and the possibility of opinions attracting others. But then later on the 27th, the sun then moves into the 5th line of the 17, and this happens at 5:09 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 17.5 is described as no human is an island. The recognition, however, understood that there is no end to hierarchies, exalted the ultimate creative expression of interdependency, whether God's will or global synthesis. Opinions that can express the value of being organized, whether mundane or spiritual, detriment the arrogance, despite all evidence, to claim that the buck stops here. The possibility of opinions that refuse to see the value of being organized. And then on the 28th, the sun then moves up into the 6th line of the 17, at 3:54 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 17.6 is the Bodhisattva, perfect falling, one with and the same as perfect leading. The great nurturer's exaltation. The nature of this position is always positive. The possibility in understanding the nature of interdependency to express opinions of value to others. Detriment of the tendency on the perfected path to believe that it is a straight line that ends rather than a circle. Where understanding is achieved, the possibility of having the opinion that there is nothing else to learn. And then on the 29th, the sun then moves from the 17 and into the 21, and the earth moves from the 18 to the 48. And actually, about 7 hours before the sun moves into the 21, Mercury leaves the 21 for the 51. So back to the Earth, we have the Earth. It's in the 48th hexagram in the gate of depth, the well, the necessary and qualitative foundation that is a prerequisite to establish the common good. And this shift happens at 2:40 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we've got the sun in the 21st gate of the Huntress, biting through the justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. And the sun in the first line of the 21 is warning the use of force as a last resort, exalting the fierceness to be respected without recourse to action, the willpower and ego to ensure respect. Detriment, the inherent peacefulness that all too often turns necessary warning into a plea. The lack of willpower that is forced to ask for respect. And as we move from the 17 to the 21, we're entering the gate of biting through, and this is in the cross of tension. And this gate is about control, the control of willpower. It's tribal circuitry, so it's about control of the tribe, the hunter, the huntress, the chief, the president, the leader of the tribe, the iron will that is not meant to break. Vanity gets in the way of accepting hierarchy, and tension to maintain hierarchies or rise up against them as part of this cross. To maintain one's authority within the tribe, one must be on guard and have control. This is part of the ego circuit that is vulnerable to the pressure of need. The polarity of the 21 is the 48. The gate of depth, meaning that leadership of the tribe is rooted in the need for depth. And the 48, this is where we have black magic, which is about finding a way of making everyone afraid of the consequences of not following a certain model, pattern, or understanding. And the 48 is in the stream of taste. So the 21 controls taste. It controls, it is the control of what everyone in the tribe or society eats, what they do or not do, how they dress, the uniformity within the tribe. The 21, this is in the channel of the money line. So this is where price is established. And with this polarity in logic, feelings cannot be afforded in biting through. It's an organizational channel that isn't just about organizing the tribe from within, but also how the various tribes interact with each other. You know, what tribes are enemies? What tribes are allies? What tribes does your tribe trade with and support in peace and war, and what tribes are threats to the resources that support your tribe? So biting through is the justified use of power to overcome interference. And this is part of a manifestor channel, and I was just thinking that it's going to be the only manifestor channel in those born with the mutation in 2027 and afterwards, because when the solar plexus is no longer a motor, the 2212 and the 3635 become projector channels. So there will only be one manifesting channel, manifestor channel for those born after 2027 and onward. The not-self mind of the 21, it imposes its will on anyone who has anything to do with you, to impose your understanding, patterns, fears. The cross attention seeks to release tension by passing it on to someone else. And tension is necessary to maintain authority over the tribe, with its threat of punishment if members do not follow the tribal expectations. And, so the 21st hexagram really brings control. And as I said before, also on the 29th, Mercury moves from the 21 to the 51. It leaves the 21 about 7 hours before the Sun enters it, and moves into the 51st hexagram, where it joins Uranus. And of course, Mercury is about communication, and Rob mentioned it being about expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. And so Mercury is in the gate of shock, the arousing, the ability to respond to disorder and shock through recognition and adaptation. And Mercury in the first line of the 51 is in reference, the advantage of previous crisis experience, exalted the gift of re-examination that is the foundation of preparedness, the power of the ego conditioned by experience, detriment, a tendency to emotional withdrawal after a shock, the weakness of the ego in times of challenge. On the 30th, the Sun then moves into the second line of the 21 at 1:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 21-2 is keynoted as might is right, the legitimacy of action in response to flagrant and persistent interference, exalted, powerful, and extreme reaction. Here, the severest action will be the most successful. The legitimate reaction of interference, the legitimate rejection of interference on the material plane. Detriment, a tendency to regret severity no matter how legitimate. The ego uncomfortable with severity. And then also on the 30th, Venus leaves the 22nd, leaving behind the South Node, and it moves into the 36th. So Venus is in human designs about values, morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And we have Venus in the 36th gate of crisis, the darkening of the light, the rule of cycles in which decline is a natural but not enduring stage. And Venus in the first line of the 36 is resistance, exalted, the energy and determination to persevere in the face of opposition, the emotional power to handle crisis, detrimented the over-principled resistance that rather than being selective in resistance and thus less at risk, will maintain normal patterns and incur opposition, a resistance to change that will always bring crisis. And then on the 31st, the Sun then moves into the third line of the 21 at 12:14 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 21-3 is powerlessness, where the just are condemned to a futile confrontation with superior forces. Exalted, defeat as a survivable humiliation, often acceptable through the abuse of drugs and alcohol. Unless one follows one's own material path, the breaking of the ego by superiors, detrimented, total withdrawal, a lack of will for the material path in order to protect the ego. And then April 1st, We have the sun moving into the fourth line of the 21st hexagram at 11:02 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And the sun in the 21:4 is described as strategy, careful appraisal of opposing forces to establish the proper response, exalting the success in action through clarity, the ego to succeed on the material plane, and the instinct to use willpower effectively in response to conditions. Detriment, a tendency when in the right to misjudge the power of one's opponents. The drive when in the right to follow one's ego rather than one's instinct. And then on the first, we also have Mercury moving out of the 51, leaving behind Uranus, and it moves into the 42. And so again, we talked about Mercury being about communication, and it's in the gate of growth, increase, the expansion of resources, which maximizes the development of full potential. And Mercury in the first line of the 42 is described as diversification, exalted the ability when surplus resources are available to extend one's activity beyond their normal scope. Growth through the expansion, particularly when defined to the root. Detrimented, a tendency when surplus resources are available to centrifugal application. Decadence, too much expansion can lead to decadence. And on the second, the sun then moves into the fifth line of the 21 at 9:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 21:5 is described as objectivity. The use of force must be based on impartiality and not emotionally motivated. Exalted, a principled and legal character that ensures objectivity. The balanced ego whose willpower is applied objectively. Detrimented, the drive for elimination, so powerful that objectivity is related purely to cause and not effect. The ego whose willpower is applied subjectively. So thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for April 3rd on 2016. It should be available on the 2nd, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, as there's New World Birth presences in all those places. And I encourage you to share this information as video or text as widely as you choose. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got questions or if you wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And as I've said in the past, you can either email me at New World Birth and I'll give you instructions about making a donation, or getting a reading is another great way to support us here, and you also get something of great value to yourself. These readings are epic. They usually run 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 hours, in order to get the details and all the information that is pertinent to your charts. Get a hold of me if that's something that intrigues you. As always, I am blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their synthesis and application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All my best to everybody. Look forward to connecting in the future.